Welcome to Disruption Dialogues Podcast Season 2. Listen to the influential leaders and trailblazers from around the world as they share invaluable insights to navigating the fifth industrial revolution.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Disruption Dialogues Season 2. I'm Siddharth Saha, Senior Vice President with the Healthcare and Lifesciences Practice at MarketsandMarkets. And today I'm in conversation with Serge Moubarak, Vice President, Commercial for the EMEA Zone at Waters Corporation. And the topic for today's discussion is how wastewater analysis is uncovering our society's problems. And I'm excited to have Serge, who brings a wealth of experience. Now, wastewater analysis or wastewater-based epidemiology is a rapidly developing field. The market is expected to be driven by increasing awareness regarding the importance of wastewater analysis and the growing adoption across various sectors. And these include environmental monitoring, public health surveillance, and rising government initiatives and growing applications beyond traditional environmental monitoring into areas like real-time insights into public health trends, etc., also becoming important. So Serge, to kick things off, could you explain how wastewater analysis, also referred to as wastewater-based epidemiology, uncovers insights into various societal problems?
So first of all, thank you so much, Siddharth, for the introduction and for hosting me today. Maybe I'd like to start actually with citing Dr. Sara Castiglione. She's from the Mario Negri Institute for Pharma Research in Milan. She summarized it extremely well. She said urban wastewater can be seen as a treasure chest, really, because it contains complex mixture of specific endo and not only endo and exogenous products of human metabolism. And those, they reflect a wide range of patterns, of factors related to our lifestyle, to our diet habits, to our health, to our disease status, and to our exposure to stressors. So what this means is that wastewaters, it contains pooled information on hundreds or even thousands of people, which provides an anonymous information about exposure to pathogens and even environmental chemicals, right? Also drugs, the drugs we eat, the food we eat, etc., etc. So with this information, I think scientists can estimate the prevalence of certain diseases, but also they can make predictions on our lifestyle and on our diet habits. So I think the key to this treasure chest, as Sarah calls it, or as she mentions it, is to find the right identifier or the right marker substances, which allow us to draw the right conclusion on disease outbreak, on a drug of abuse thing, on a diet habit, or even on a contaminant exposure, right? So the World Health Organization, the WHO, established the terminus environmental health to address all kinds of physical and chemical and biological factors external to a person that can potentially affect health. So environmental health, I would say it encompasses the assessment and the control of these factors, preventing diseases, creating healthcare supportive environments, right? So wastewater analysis, I would say it contributes to the approach. And I see waters actually as a strong partner for pharmacological and environmental labs who are active in this field. So looking back on how wastewater, I would say, analysis developed, it was in the 1930s. Imagine, it goes back to the 1930s, where the surveillance of the polio virus was the first approach to make use of sewage. And then it took up until, if I'm not mistaken, 2003. So that before the World Health Organization or the WHO officially adopted wastewater-based epidemiology and what we used to call WBE for polio. And then at about the same time, researchers, and like Sara Castiglione that we mentioned, started to monitor illicit and even licit drugs in wastewater. And our company provided the extraction materials to prepare the samples. So in the following years, joint efforts have been made to improve and even to harmonize the wastewater analysis approach. And as a result, a cross-sectorial and transdisciplinary network, the Sewage Analysis Core Group Europe Network, was established in 2010. And the so-called SCORE network develops common protocols of action, it coordinates international studies, etc., etc. And all this harmonization of wastewater analysis approach contributed majorly to the accelerated monitoring of disease markers and the installation, I would say, of early warning systems in all countries all over the world during the corona pandemic. And most recent work, I would say, is undertaken to get an understanding of dietary habits. So the usage of pharmaceuticals, as well as cigarette, alcohol consumption, you name it. The results of these studies, they support transitional epidemiology approaches, as it must be understood today. The wastewater analysis is one of the tools to get a holistic picture of our society and its problem. And I hope this whole introduction summarized it the right way, Siddharth.
Absolutely, Serge. I mean, the way you've articulated it, so important to measure the behavior of our fellow citizens. And I think the area that gets more airtime tends to be, the impact of manufacturing when we talk about PFAS and, those kinds of things. But everything that you articulated here is, so much more important when you think about society, public health, the behavior of our, fellow citizens and what they are exposed to, and has the potential to actually change all of that for, for the good. Serge, I wanted to spend a few minutes on adoption trends. There might be differences between, continents and regions. Now, what would be the impact of these insights, when you explore wastewater analysis? And do you see any differences between the developed world and developing countries around the world?
I mean, Siddharth, as I mentioned right before, so early warning systems for COVID-19, and they had an immense impact at local and even national level to access and prevent outbreaks of the disease, right? This is one of the major impacts. But still, I mean, it took some time before authorities accepted and used wastewater analysis data to make decisions and take actions. So by now, many countries worldwide, they have installed a kind of national wastewater monitoring systems for the COVID virus. And WBE is accepted and used, I would say, as a complementary epidemiological surveillance tool in more than 70 countries. Another application that has a huge impact on society, especially I would say here in developed countries, is the monitoring of illicit drug usage and how it helps to uncover really social problems and how to, I would say, even help uncover fight and to fight crimes, right? So King Lee, and he's in the Laboratory of Earth Surface Processes, and he's in the College of Urban and Environmental Sciences at the Beijing University. He gives an interesting insight on the outcome of wastewater monitoring program that was implemented in China in 2018. And he said the wastewater monitoring data has been used as a basis for evaluating the performance of drug control. And here, not only drug, I would say drug control efforts among the different authorities level. And the generated data helped and supported local police to identify drug usage. And not even that, this data helped locate suspect manufacturing activities and sites and helped the Chinese police to dismantle dozens of clandestine laboratories. So here's another example where wastewater analysis uncovered really illegal activities in the monitoring of industrial sewage as well, right? With a kind of a systemic or a systematic approach, a targeted approach of surveillance, it's possible as well to ensure that there is no actual risk where industries releases processed water and even discharge contaminated wastewater. And we all know how negative the impact is of that wastewater on human, on animals, on even all the environmental health, and therefore how it impacts all our society in a very dramatic way. There are plenty of examples for this. And Most recent one is the contamination with the PFAS, right? We discussed a lot about the PFAS, which is the per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances. And here we're talking about Belgium, where it's really a hotspot in Europe, and how even the monitoring of the so-called persistent organic pollutants, or the POPs, and the heavy metals industry, where you have a discharge that is important in regions where there is no sewage system, right? And where wastewater enters the environment directly without any treatment to clear it up. So here I would say that a global health threat that is less straightforward than the examples I just spoke about, and yet not even fully understood, is as well the AMR, right? AMR stands for antimicrobial resistance. And we all know how tough this problem is. AMR is currently one of the leading causes of death, right? With a significant burden in low and middle income countries. I'm citing here Renee Street, right? Renee Street from the Environmental and Health Research Unit of the South African Medical Research Council. So in her opinion, the threat of AMR is influenced by wastewater management, as actually antimicrobials are discharged into wastewater systems from sites of high risk. And those sites, when I say sites of high risk, what does it mean? Those sites, they include, of course, healthcare facilities where human health is addressed, or sites of high risk that are livestock farms and aquaculture systems, where you had animals taking a lot of antibiotics and they become antibiotics kind of resistance, etc., etc. So AMR is a real perfect example of interdependence between humans, animals, environmental health, which is referred to here as a One Health approach. So the WHO defines One Health as an integrated, unifying approach that aims to really sustainably balance and optimize, I would say, the health of people, the health of animals, and the ecosystem. So wastewater again and again, wastewater surveillance within the One Health approach can expand our understanding of AMR and support targeted interventions. So in general, I think it's fair to state that developed countries can make full usage of wastewater analysis and WBE because technology, know-how, infrastructures, and the financial background, they really exist here. So for developing countries, or I would say rural areas where there is no access to sewage treatment, wastewater analysis data could be extremely beneficial, again, to monitor the health status and really the possible disease outbreaks in those countries. So I hope I answered this question, Siddharth. Yeah, I know I've been referring to many things, but it's a great question.
No, Serge, very. This is eye-opening. The examples and the application areas that you mentioned in China and in Belgium. So staying on the aspect of adoption, clearly you outlined so many application areas. Now, would you say this is cost effective as a method to gather population level data? And it's non-invasive. Obviously, the application areas exist, but is it really cost effective as well for users?
I mean, listen, the statement is correct. If you want to look at it, let's look at three aspects of this, right? Number one, collecting sample. The collecting samples, I would say, for wastewater analysis, which is easy, which is non-invasive, which is not limited in volume, and can even be automated to get the real-time information. And if you compare that to traditional epidemiology studies, where studies must be taken from volunteering humans, and the difference in effort and cost and outcome is huge, and it's obvious. And then, as I pointed out in the beginning, both approaches are complementary tools, right? They need to be combined so that can give you a holistic approach or a holistic information on hundreds of thousands of people, right? And the second aspect is the cost of the analysis itself. The traditional invasive approach required one test for every human being.
Individual.
Where here the wastewater analysis only needs one sample and ideally a few replicates to statistically confirm the results. And the third aspect touches really the fact that it can be so sensitive to take urine, feces, or blood samples from human to get reliable information on their diet habits or drug consumptions. especially trained personnel are like they're needed, right? Where in wastewater analysis, there is no direct touch point with humans and samples. They can be taken by almost everyone. So I would say by looking into those three aspects, we can easily say that yes, it is cost effective.
Absolutely, and I'm just wondering. There's the question of anonymity, and yet you're able to provide surveillance at a population level. I guess the examples that you called out, even down to district and location in the town or city, it's possible to home into very specific areas as well. Thank you for that, Serge. Serge, I want to spend a few minutes on the technologies that are involved in wastewater analysis. Um, what is the role of chromatography, PCR, sequencing, chemical and biosensors in this space? And I do have a follow-on question to that as well. What role does the Waters Corporation portfolio play in this critical area?
Got it. And thank you again, Siddharth, for this question. Listen, the technologies and the tools applied here for wastewater analysis, they depend on the type of data and the type of information we want to gather, right? So if it's a wastewater-based epidemiology approach that wants to monitor, let's say, COVID-19 or the drugs of abuse in a quantitative way, then you would need PCR. And we all heard about the PCR many times during COVID. That stands for polymerase chain reaction. This is used to detect the RNA of the COVID virus, and then simple chemical sensors can be applied to identify drugs of abuse extremely fast. If you're aiming to find new disease markers, then this is where you can get another quantitative profile of contaminants in wastewater. You would need more sophisticated technologies like chromatography. And then whether it is ion, liquid, or gas chromatography in combination with a specific detector, this will provide you a very detailed picture of a site of interest. And then we're talking about what do we need to couple with this separation technique that is called liquid chromatography. You would need to couple a detector. And the detector here can be optical, can be a very complex one like the mass spectrometer. And depending on the detector, you would definitely need a scientist to quantify contaminants. And then here you need to quantify per, I would say, parts per quadrillion level sometimes. The more complex the used technology is, I would say, the more complex the sample preparation is and the more difficult it becomes. Now, here comes the role of Waters, and I'm so privileged to work in a company where really we have extremely strong portfolio that plays a crucial role in wastewater monitoring. We offer really advanced analytical solutions that are extremely essential for assessing water quality, for detecting contaminants, and most importantly, I would say, ensuring regulatory compliance. So here we have a suite that would go from sample prep to doing the separation, to doing the detection, and of course, to manage all the data. And those tools are extremely, extremely needed for identifying, for quantifying the spectrum, I would say, of pollutants and really not only pollutants, I would even say pathogens in wastewater. And all this can impact the health of our human beings, right? So if we want to deep dive just quickly into how water can assist in specific area, we can say first, it's important to understand that wastewater is a matrix, right? And then it can contain hundreds or even thousands of different compounds, which make the study extremely challenging. So you would need low-level detection. And here it's really critical to remove some of the components that can interfere within the analysis of the targeted analytes. And this is where our various sample preparation options come into play, right? You need to prepare a sample. And one example that I already mentioned probably before is the Oasis, which is the Oasis solid phase extraction products that are extensively used in wastewater monitoring labs worldwide. You can see them. And here they appear in many, many publications. And once you have the sample, Siddharth, once you have the sample cleaned, the next way is to analyze them with the analytical systems. And although the complexity of the sample composition has been reduced somehow at the first step, you would still need further separation. And here comes the role of our ultra-performance liquid chromatography, which we call the UPLC systems. And we have many available, by the way, within Waters chemistry department. They assure the precise identification of individual compounds, including those at trace levels. And now that we've done the separation, we need to focus on the detection. So at Waters, I would say we offer a range of technologies for all this purpose. And the simplest option is an optical detector. But wastewater monitoring often requires as I said, high specificity, high sensitivity and accuracy. And then we would require a mass spectrometer. So MS is particularly effective for analyzing persistent organic pollutants, pharmaceuticals, and emerging contaminants commonly found in wastewater. So these tools enable scientists, I would say, to obtain a comprehensive profile of contaminants, including their chemical structures and their concentrations. And then for quantifying known contaminants, we have our tandem quadruples. We call triple quad or tandem quad systems like the Xevo TQ Absolute or the Xevo TQS. They are designed actually to allow the highest sensitivity, robustness, and reliability in routine and research environments. So our high-resolution MS, such as Xevo G3 QTOF, they are excellent as well for discovering new contaminants, but also to take a full picture of a sample composition, which can be stored actually and subject to later analysis. And then last but not least, if you want to go to high resolution mass spectrometry, we have the Select series, which is called the cyclic IMS. And here we bring ion mobility, in which adds a third dimension to the separation and offer more features for compound identification. Water is known for its innovations here when it comes to HRMS, and we continuously improve this, I would say, this kind of product range. And very recently, actually, in a couple of weeks back during the American Society of Mass Spectrometry, we just launched the new Xevo MRT, and then this takes screening to a new level of accuracy, of speed and sensitivity. So again, instrumentation is a very important part of the equation here, but do not forget, you need software, and software is even more important to the analysis. And this is where I would say Waters integrated informatics and data management solutions, we play a crucial role in connecting the instrumentations to our users. And if you want to see one of our wastewater solutions, I would strongly advise you to look at how we collaborate with regulatory bodies and research institutions to develop those methodologies for environmental testing, like the EVAG, which is the Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Technologies. There is a great example for that. Let me pause for a second and see if you have any questions on that.
Yeah, pretty comprehensive portfolio, Serge, and I would I would recommend taking a look at the portfolio and the case studies that you mentioned. And on that note, I want to actually pivot towards the agencies, the stakeholders that need to embrace these types of technologies and platforms. Who are these agencies, or who all play a critical role in the implementation of the solutions? Public health agencies, the utility companies themselves, and can you give a little bit of flavor to the role of the stakeholders who must embrace these technologies?
Listen, in a nutshell, I would say universities, academics, research development, and every kind of governmental federal institute that should be investigating and doing this kind of research. And here the list can be longer and longer, Siddharth, but I would say those organizations are extremely important to do the job.
Okay. And I noticed there was some reference to Waters Corporation actually helping these agencies also set up and go forward. So do you offer some kind of professional services, provide assistance, manpower to get them going? Is that an area where you support?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, when it comes to application, we're leaders in that. It's not all about the instrumentation. It's all about helping our users to work on those instruments, to define sample preparations together, to define methods together. It's a true collaboration, really. And here we never look at those organizations as customers. They are really partners, and we collaborate together. This is pure science here. Really, here we're talking about pure science, and it's extremely important for us. to have key opinion leaders and to have this kind of collaboration and scientific collaboration between us and those different, I would say, institutions.
That's great. That's great. And finally, Serge, what advice would you give businesses looking to embark on the journey towards wastewater analysis? If there were agencies, entities, academic departments who wanted to start off, revamp, improve, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. As we often hear from our existing customers, that really environmental concerns are growing and regulations are becoming more and more stricter, and more businesses like really see wastewater analysis as a chance to do something different and to have a purpose, I would say. Wastewater analysis is becoming, and it's constantly evolving, I would say, Siddharth. And that's why, as Waters, really, we emphasize the importance of staying at the cutting edge of the technology. And businesses, my message, they should invest on ongoing trainings. They need to keep up with the latest research. They need to adapt to new technologies. And like I mentioned earlier, I think we have the chance to offer this portfolio, those technologies, those solutions, those applications to monitor wastewater. I mean, we have many experts on the field. It's important. This is a journey, and we want to do it together with those institutions. So this is why I think we have even dedicated teams that understand those needs and they can help. And then to wrap up, I would say embarking on wastewater analysis, it requires a strategic approach. And you would need a long-term experience, you would need innovative solutions, you will need to have a framework, and you will need to collaborate with companies like us or others, but it's a kind of collaboration between scientists, companies like us, researchers, etc., etc. And yeah, I think this is the kind of message that I would like to wrap up with, Siddharth.
Thank you so much, Serge. Clearly a lot going on, but I get the feeling there's much more to do collaboratively. I think there's the potential to improve society, and the health of our populations is immense. On that positive note, I would like to thank Serge Moubarak for spending time with us on this disruption dialogue. Thank you, Serge, for being for such an interesting discussion. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. I was in conversation with Serge Moubarak, Vice President Commercial for the EMEA Zone at Waters Corporation. Thank you, Serge, once again.
Thank you, Siddharth. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And stay tuned for such interesting episodes on Disruption Dialogues.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to know how you can navigate and thrive in this disruptive era, subscribe to Disruption Dialogues on your go-to podcast channels and stay tuned for more interesting episodes.